ជំរាបសួរសួស្តីលោកស្រីពុកម៉ែមេមីបងប្អូនជាទីគោរពរាប់អានខ្ញុំបាទថាលសុងមានកិត្តិយសនាំមកនៅកម្មវិធីពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងកូនខ្មែរលាវម្នាក់ឈ្មោះក្មួយរតដែលកំពុងតែជាប់នៅក្នុងមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលជនអន្តោប្រវេសន៍ក៏ដូចជាប្រជាពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរមួយចំនួនដែលបានពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេសទៅកម្ពុជាវិញកន្លងមកហើយនឹងពេលបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាកូនខ្មែរមួយចំនួនដែលត្រូវបានគេដោះលែងចេញពីគុកនៅលើលក្ខណៈត្រួតពិនិត្យដោយសារគេបានបង្ហាញថាគេកែប្រែឬផ្លាស់គំនិតរបស់គេក៏ប៉ុន្តែពួកគេស្ថិតនៅក្នុងភាពដែលអាចនិរទេសបានហើយត្រូវបានរដ្ឋាភិបាលនិរទេសដដែលថ្ងៃនេះយើងនឹងមានឱកាសបានឮផ្ទាល់អំពីឪពុកនិងម្ដាយរបស់ក្មួយរតនៅសាច់រឿងដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងសមិទ្ធផលរបស់កូនគាត់រួមនឹងសារៈសំខាន់នៃការជួបជុំកូនប្រុសរបស់គាត់បន្ទាប់ពីបានចំណាយពេលវេលានៅក្នុងគុកអស់រយៈពេលជាយូរឆ្នាំមកហើយឯមពីនេះទៅទៀតគាត់នឹងពិភាក្សាអំពីបទពិសោធន៍សហគមន៍ក្នុងវត្តឬលំនាំនៃការបំបីគ្រួសាររបៀបដែលយើងបានបង្ខំឲ្យភៀសខ្លួនចេញពីប្រទេសរបស់យើងមករស់នៅក្នុងសហគមន៍ដែលពុំមានធនធានគ្រប់គ្រាន់ការជាប់ឃុំឃាំងហើយនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេសយើងក៏នឹងបានឮផ្ទាល់អំពីសមាជិកសមរភាពរបស់អង្គការប្រឆាំងនឹងការនិរទេសអាស៊ីអាគ្នេយ៍ប្រចាំទីក្រុង Long Beach អំពីមូលហេតុអ្វីបានជាពួកគេបានបង្កើតឲ្យមានអង្គការនេះឡើងហើយមូលហេតុអ្វីបានជាយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាត្រូវរួបរวมគ្នាជួយសង្គ្រោះក្មួយរតដើម្បីទប់ស្កាត់រដ្ឋាភិបាលសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកបច្ចុប្បន្នកុំឲ្យគេនិរទេសក្មួយរតទៅកម្ពុជាវិញហើយនឹងជម្រាបជូនទៅយុទ្ធនាការមួយចំនួនដែលលោកស្រីពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នាអាចជួយក្មួយរតបានខ្ញុំសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាបទសម្ភាសន៍នៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះយើងនឹងចែករំលែកនិយាយជាពីភាសា Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen I am Charles Song your host and I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to today's program that involves one of our Cambodian Laos brother and his name is Rod. He is currently in ICE detention at risk of deportation as many others Cambodians who have been deported to Cambodia in the past and in the recent months. Many of these kids who have been incarcerated were released on parole because they showed transformation, yet due to our current government are still at risk of deportation or have already been deported. Today, we will have an opportunity to hear from Rod's father and his mother, who are here with us, on the importance of the reuniting with their son after spending years of his life behind bars. She will also discuss in depth on how our community experienced cycles of separation, such as how we were forced to flee our country and come into under-resourced communities, which have led to the incarceration and deportation. We also have a great opportunity to hear from collective members of the Long Beach Southeast Asian Anti-Deportation Collective on why they do what they do, why it is important that we need to help save Rods from deportation, and what you, the audience, can do to help. And that is my opening. So today's interview will be translated into 2 languages, and one of them is in Khmer, and also we're going to speak in English. Now, to start off, I'd like to ask the group from the anti-deportation to go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's start with Vandalyn. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Ripsul, everyone. My name is Vanderlyn, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a volunteer with the Long Beach Anti-Deportation Defense Collective.
And next to her is Darian.
My name is Darian Ong. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm also part of the Long Beach Southeast Asian Anti-Deportation Collective.
And we have Sevely. Welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Silverly and I'm with the Long Beach Anti-Deportation Collective and my pronouns are they, them, theirs.
ហើយនៅក្នុងទីវានេះដែរយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាមានសេចក្តីសមណោះរីករាយនឹងស្វាគមន៍នៅឪពុកហើយនិងម្ដាយរបស់ក្មួយរដ្ឋដូច្នេះខ្ញុំសូមទុកឱកាសនេះដើម្បីឲ្យឪពុករបស់រដ្ឋដើម្បីនឹងណែនាំខ្លួនរបស់គាត់ឲ្យលោកអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាបានស្គាល់បាទសូមអញ្ជើញ Okay. ចំពោះអ្នកមីងវិញបាទសូមអញ្ជើញអ្នកមីង
ជំរាបសួរបងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នាខ្ញុំឈ្មោះលឿងម៉ៃថងជាម្ដាយឈ្មោះរត់ម៉ៃថងអរគុណបាទប្រិមិត្តជាទីគោរពរាប់អានថ្ងៃនេះយើងមានធរៈសំខាន់ដើម្បីនឹងពំនាំមកនៅព័ត៌មានដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងក្មួយរដ្ឋដូច្នេះតើយើងនឹងអាចដឹងថាគោលការណ៍របស់អង្គការខាងផ្នែកដែលប្រឆាំងដែលខាតនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេសរបស់កូនខ្មែរហ្នឹងតើយ៉ាងណាយ៉ាងណីអីហើយនឹងយើងនឹងបានលើផ្ទាល់ជាមួយនឹងឪពុកម្ដាយដូច្នេះសូមប្រកល់ទូនាទីនេះសួរនៅសំណួរទី1បាទសំណួរទី1នេះខ្ញុំនឹងផ្ដោតអារម្មណ៍ទៅលើក្រុមការងាររបស់អ្នកប្រឆាំងនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេស So if any of you back there from the LB Southeast Asian Anti-Deportation. Now, the audience have no idea of who you really are. Can you go ahead and tell us and how you come about to get together?
Yes. So the Long Beach Southeast Asian Anti-Deportation Collective came out of a need to begin reuniting our families. A lot of it was Shubri's urgency around the deportations that's happening within our families, but also acknowledging that there's separation happening. We came out of a particular need to run campaigns, public campaigns, to raise awareness and also stop the deportations of our families, but also reunite them. So our work falls into two categories. We do anti-deportation campaigns, which is the ReleaseRot campaign that we're working on to stop his deportation. But we also talk about right to reunite. So we're trying to also bring families and deportees that have been deported back to the US.
Okay.
So we also always do this within 4 families and the people that are directly impacted.
Alrighty. So speaking of deportation, I'm pretty sure that this is not the first. And it's not going to be the last either. It's not going to be the last either. When we're talking about deportation, the seriousness of that is not just the impact that the individual that they deported to Cambodia, but also the family itself. So how and what is exactly the context of the Cambodian deportation today as you are aware of? Can anyone explain it?
I will.
Go ahead.
Okay. So 16,000 Southeast Asians have been deported since the mid-1990s. Following the invasion and bombings of Southeast Asia, many people resettled into low-income, disinvested neighborhoods, such as Long Beach, California, Rhode Island, Stockton, California, Providence, Rhode Island, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Lowell, Massachusetts.
So there were so many since the 90s. If you put in the context, that's a lot of people that has been deported, deported to Cambodia. Again, earlier we mentioned about the impact that has brought not just to the deportees, but to the family. So exactly the impact of deportation of the Cambodian in general, can you share that part with us? Yeah?
Yeah, as we know, deportations impact not only the deportee, but their immediate family and sometimes the community as well. One story I'd like to highlight is Bong Porn Tam, who was deported and his life became unstable after this. He was a caretaker not only for his family, but the aunties and uncles in the neighborhood, in the local community. His sister ended up working extra hours to keep the family afloat and send resources to Porn. And on the other hand of that, for Porn, he struggled to secure employment because of a lack of resources and language capacity. And I'd like to highlight that many of the people who are deported are refugees, and they've never been back to Cambodia, so it's a very foreign land for them.
Okay, so there were many of them deported back to Cambodia as we speak. But then there are some cases you never heard it from, right? It just disappeared. So why Rod's case has drawn so much attention and why not others?
Yeah. Like you mentioned, Boo, Rot is not the first Khmer Lao person to be deported, but he's one of the few that we have a public campaign for. He was convicted of a crime when he was a child at 16. He was charged as an adult even though he was 17, and he served 29 years in prison. And during that time, he dedicated himself to self-help programs in an effort to reunite with his family. Back in February, he was granted parole, but unfortunately, instead of being freed, he was transferred to ICE, and where we know they're unequipped to care for Rot because of his medical conditions. They can't provide for social distancing or give him medical attention. And so with that, over 4,400 of our brothers and sisters have signed a petition demanding that the immigration judge grant Rot's bond so that he can be free.
Wow. So there are so many people have already signed the petition. We're going to get into that later on in the segment because it's important that we must need to get them signed to get enough petition so that we can bring about to really do the next step. Now, when you are talking about deportation, of course, there are some people who would agree and some who don't. And this is the reason why we are here. We're here to really bring all the accurate information to all the folks who are listening here, because it's important until they understand that, because I don't understand that prior to. I would have said, well, if the kid's doing something bad, let's ship them out, right? But what they didn't really understand, what caused the kids. And to understand that, we have to go way, way back to really understand. And in my opening. And that is to go about on how we were forced to flee our country to come to this country, as many living in the rural area. For example, I would strongly believe that Rod's family would probably live in the rural area in Cambodia and coming into an entirely different world. So I'm going to turn this attention to ask, because the impact, it would have been, can you imagine as a parent, I am a parent, and to have my kid being in jail for so many years, and yet receive a good news, and the next thing you know, they throw him back in. So,តាំងនាមជាពុកម្ដាយយើងតែងតែមានការស្រឡាញ់និងអាណិតកូនចៅរបស់យើងបានដឹងហើយថាក្មួយរត់បានប្រព្រឹត្តនៅអំពើហិង្សាមួយចំនួនដែលបានបណ្ដាលឲ្យគេក៏ប៉ុន្តែគេបានលៀងកំហុសរបស់គេអស់រយៈពេលជាច្រើនឆ្នាំនៅក្នុងគុកដើម្បីនឹងសង្ឃឹមថាមានថ្ងៃមួយដើម្បីនឹងបង្កើតនៅជីវិតថ្មីរបស់គេដូច្នេះការប៉ះពាល់ទៅរឿងទៅដល់ក្មួយរត់ហ្នឹងគឺថាមិនមែនត្រឹមតែក្មួយរត់ទេនៅថ្ងៃនេះយើងនឹងបានដូច្នេះខ្ញុំនឹងបានឮអំពីថាតើមនោសញ្ចេតនាឬក៏អារម្មណ៍របស់ពុកម្ដាយរបស់គាត់ហ្នឹងមានយ៉ាងម៉េចដែរចំពោះកូនរបស់គាត់ដូច្នេះលោកពូខ្ញុំចង់សួរទៅលោកពូថាកូនលោកពូបានបម្រើពេលវេលា នៅក្នុងគុកនោះវាយូរឆ្នាំមកហើយបើតាមតែខ្ញុំដឹងហ្នឹងណាហើយតើលោកពូមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងណាដែរនៅពេលដែលដឹងថាគេបានដោះលែងគាត់ហើយតែត្រូវបានខាងអន្តរប្រវេសន៍ហ្នឹងចាប់ខ្លួនរបស់គាត់យកទៅដាក់នៅមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលដដែលហ្នឹង
អារម្មណ៍របស់ខ្ញុំគឺថាកូនខ្ញុំគួរណាតាគេដោះលែងរួចពីកន្លែងដែលនេះឃុំឃាំងតាំងពីយូរយារណាស់មកហើយហ្នឹងហើយសប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃគួរណាតាឲ្យគ្នានឹងចេញមកមានសេរីភាពដោយគេរត់ឯងធម្មតា
I know that អ្នកមីងមុននឹងយើងបានមកជួបគ្នាហ្នឹងអ្នកមីងបានមានប្រសាសន៍ថាខ្ញុំប្រហែលជានិយាយខ្មែរមិនសូវបានច្បាស់ចេះលាវច្រើនអីចឹងណាចាណាបងប្អូនជាបរដ្ឋលាវហ្នឹងក៏ទស្សនាខ្មែរ TV នឹងច្រើនណាស់បាទអញ្ចឹងបើអ្នកមីងអាចនិយាយជាភាសាលាវខ្ញុំសួរសំណួរដូចគ្នាអំពីលពូតែអ្នកមីងមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងណាដែរអំពីការចាប់អ្នកកូនដែលបានទៅជាប់គុកហើយដែលបានខិតខំព្យាយាមសាងខ្លួនបានហើយរហូតដល់មានថ្ងៃមួយដែលត្រូវបានគេជួយដោះលែងឲ្យហើយផ្ទុយទៅវិញត្រូវគេចាប់យកទៅដាក់នៅគុកអន្តោប្រវេសន៍ទៀតនោះតើអ្នកមានយល់ឃើញយ៉ាងម៉េចដែរ
ខ្ញុំមិនសប្បាយចិត្តទេពីព្រោះនៅក្នុងគុកនោះក៏យូរឆ្នាំហើយនឹង29ឆ្នាំហើយត្រូវតលេងលះចេញមកហើយត្រូវឲ្យមកលោកឪពុកម្ដាយបងប្អូនគ្នាក៏ជាប់លៀងយូរណាស់ហើយខុសទៅហើយក៏ត្រូវអភ័យទោសឲ្យហើយពុកម្ដាយមិនចង់ឲ្យឃ្លាតទៅឆ្ងាយទេមិនហិតកូនណា
ជំរាបសួរសារជាថ្មីពុកម៉ែមានបងប្អូនជាទីគោរពរាប់អានខ្ញុំបាទឆាលសុងសូមលំទោនកាយស្វាគមន៍ពុកម៉ែមានបងប្អូនដើម្បីបន្តនៅកម្មវិធីរបស់យើងតទៅទៀតនៅក្នុងបទសម្ភាសន៍ក្នុងទីវានេះបាទសំណួរនេះគឺពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងក្រុមគ្រួសាររបស់គាត់ពីព្រោះមានន័យថាវាមានសារៈសំខាន់ណាស់ពឹងផ្អែកទៅលើរដ្ឋាភិបាលបច្ចុប្បន្នហើយនឹងអ្វីដែលជាសេចក្តីសង្ឃឹមរបស់គាត់ So this question is going to go to the family the parent or themselves and that is how they feel about the current government and what is the hope that brought them here in the first place to resettle in the city of Long Beach. So let me ask Rod's father លោកពូនៅក្នុងគំនិតមួយលោកពូបានដឹងហើយអំពីថាចំនួនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរដែលត្រូវបានគេធ្វើនិរទេសនឹងវាច្រើនណាស់មកហើយជាពិសេសគឺនៅក្នុងបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះដែលយើងកំពុងតែប្រឈមមុខទៅនឹងគេហៅថារដ្ឋាភិបាលបច្ចុប្បន្នហ្នឹងតើគំនិតរបស់លោកពូនឹងយល់ឃើញយ៉ាងម៉េចដែរអំពីអ្វីដែលយើងបានឃើញនៅចលនារបស់រដ្ឋាភិបាលបច្ចុប្បន្នហ្នឹងធៀបទៅនឹងសេចក្តីសង្ឃឹមរបស់លោកពូដែលកាលលោកពូអញ្ជើញមកពីចំនួនប៉ែតផ្លាយហ្នឹងដែលសង្ឃឹមថាជីវិតប្រកបជាមានការសម្បូរហូរហៀរហ្នឹងតើលោកពូគិតឃើញយ៉ាងម៉េចដែរ
ចំពោះខ្ញុំជាឪពុករបស់ណារត់តែកន្លងមុនខ្ញុំឃើញឡើងកូនរបស់បងប្អូនយើងដែលបានគេរដ្ឋាភិបាលបាននិរទេសទៅស្រុកខ្មែរហ្នឹងគឺមានចំនួនច្រើនទៅហើយមានការវេទនាដែលទៅក្នុងស្រុកខ្មែរហ្នឹងអ្នកខ្លះមិនស្គាល់បងស្គាល់អូនមិនមានបងមិនមានអូនហ្នឹងគឺមានការលំបាកជាខ្លាំងតែកន្លងមកហ្នឹងឥឡូវនេះមកដល់ពេលនេះដូចជាកូនខ្ញុំនេះជាដើមខ្ញុំបារម្ភពីរឿងដែលរដ្ឋាភិបាលនៃប្រទេសទៅនឹងខ្លាំងណាស់មិនចង់ឲ្យនៃប្រទេសកូនខ្ញុំទៅអញ្ចឹងទេខ្ញុំសង្ឃឹមថារដ្ឋាភិបាលសប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃនេះអាចមានមេត្តាធម៌ជួយកូនខ្ញុំនឹងឲ្យនៅក្នុងស្រុកនេះពីព្រោះវាមកនៅនឹងតាំងពីតូចក្រូចឆ្មាមកវាអត់ដឹងអីទាំងអស់ហើយភាសាប្រពៃណីរបស់យើងក៏វាអត់ដឹងអត់ស្គាល់ដែរបាទ
ចំពោះអ្នកមីងវិញតើអ្នកមីងមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងណាដែរបាទ
ខ្ញុំមានអារម្មណ៍តែមិនឲ្យជូនទៅប៉ុណ្្នឹងឯងឲ្យចោលឲ្យកូនរស់នៅជាមួយគិតខ្ញុំមើលខ្ញុំ take care ខ្ញុំនឹកគិតកូនចៅគេគ្រួសារគេកុំឲ្យទៅឆ្ងាយពីខ្ញុំចុះជួយខ្ញុំផង
បាទជាការពិតខាងនាមជាឪពុកម្ដាយគឺយើងអត់ចង់បានឲ្យឃើញថាកូនចៅរបស់យើងនឹងត្រូវបានគេនិរទេសទៅឆ្ងាយពីយើងទេពីព្រោះយើងចង់អបសោតនឹងផ្ដល់នៃការស្រឡាញ់ទៅដល់ពួកគេ Now the next question is very important that I really want to ask one of you back there because you are young and you know quite a bit about the situation and there are people out there who really feels as though something that happened, it's happened, and they should have been deported. So, if you can look in the camera and tell them, because as you know, Rod must commit something before he can get, detained. Correct? Yes. So, if you can look at the camera and tell folks and say, look, this is the reason why, and this is why he should stay and all that. What would you say to them, Darian?
Well, I'll start off by talking about how families who entered this country endured economic, social, and psychological challenges during the resettlement period. Many deportees faced bullying at school, discrimination by other groups, and violence in their own homes. Joining a gang was an act of self-preservation and protection for some of these children.
So you stated something that is very important for others to know that it's not like the people who would one day woke up say, hey, I like to join it, right? So this is in all means. And I know firsthand as a father, when I came to the city of Long Beach during the 80 is how tough it is for you guys. And I can't imagine how many families had to go through with that. So how can our government respond better when it comes to deportation of the Cambodian people? Sadly, you have any thought to that?
Yeah, so a lot of the work that we're doing is trying to emphasize and stop deportations of Cambodian people. We recognize that there was a lot of struggle and these, again, cycles of separation. And we're seeing that our folks never really had opportunity and resources to really thrive, right? A lot of their mechanisms were survival. We have a couple of our other campaigns where they've committed purse snatching or minor drug offenses. So our communities are being targeted, and a lot of these laws are also changing, like are no longer deportable. So that's why we're really trying to understand why our community was being deported and what could we do to push back against that, because a lot of the folks who have these convictions, there's about 1,700 or 1,300 folks that have criminal convictions that are Cambodian. So they're at risk of deportation. But these criminal convictions are also these crimes out of poverty, but also crimes that happened when there was a lot of incarceration happening in our community. So we're trying to let elected officials know and our community know and raise awareness that our folks shouldn't be deported. And there are reasons why they were charged with these criminal convictions too, because sometimes they didn't have adequate counsel. Like they took plea deals and didn't know what that meant for their deportation.
In your statement is very important. Along that line, there's a missing keyword that is legality, and that is the law. So I want to ask Vani, because it's important. I like whatever you guys is doing, because deportation must be brought to the attention not just a few people, but to all people so that they can better understanding. So moving forward, the LD Southeast Asian Anti-Deportation has any plan in regarding to really go about and teach or share or bring about the legality to the community?
Yeah, we're working on efforts to pass a citywide resolution against deportation with local elected officials, and we've been meeting with them. But aside from that, the audience can help us and stay connected with us by following us on social media. We're active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Darren, would you like to add anything
Yeah,
onto that?
I'd like to add that you can also Venmo us at EpiHood Scholar to help with our fundraising. It is EpiHoodScholar. The contributions were going to the deportees, the families, and the staff to help them. And all of your proceedings will be very, very much appreciated.
Well, we're going to talk about that. About what, how, and all of that stuff. So, go ahead. If you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, so with the legality piece, a lot of our community don't know how to navigate that system and don't have the resources to navigate it. So with ROT, like we were fortunate to get a legal representation for him through our Long Beach Justice Fund, because Long Beach actually has a fund for anti-deportation, which people are organizing for again this particular budget cycle. So our communities often don't have the best legal representation. That's why we're trying to have those conversations and have people understand what does it mean when you take a certain plea deal. What does that mean for you and your family and your deportation status, or if you're going to be deportable? But what we do know is that sometimes when our communities or other folks commit similar crimes, they don't, once they finish their sentence, they're able to go back to the community and return back to their families because they're U.S. citizens. But if they're not and they don't have that status, they automatically become deportable, no matter, even after they finish their sentences.
So if that is the case, as a movement for your guy moving forward, have you thought about bringing deportees themselves to come on board with you? And if there's a message, what will it be to the people who are afraid of coming on board with you? What are you going to tell them? Can any of you just tell them?
Well, we want you to know that the Long Beach Southeast Asian Deportation Collective stands with all Cambodians facing deportations.
Okay. All right. Anybody?
Yeah. And also to just add and emphasize that it's okay for us to talk about this issue. This issue has not been always talked about. There has been work where community groups and organizations has uplifted it, but there's also a genuine fear of just participating in a public campaign, putting yourself out there. And that's why it's so brave of Rot's parents to be here.
Right.
And also having Rot write letters from the inside, like from Adelanto, telling people how it's important to have their support and how he appreciates it. So again, we're trying to uplift the community and the families to really talk about it. And that's where we bring power, right? Our communities and our families that are directly impacted are speaking and are no longer seeing that this is a silent issue that they're particularly facing, but it's something our broader community is facing. And we're here to help and support and also uplift those messages and make sure that there's support for them as they speak up. So a lot of it is just raising awareness and having our families feel confident and safe to want to speak up.
Anybody want to add on to that, Vanny? Anything you want to add on to that? So I think it's important when you use the word fears and all of that stuff. Fear is the elements that really stop anything from really growing at all. And this has been 40 plus years. The fears that silence many of us, and until we are able to come to the table and really put the message forward, I think that is the best thing that you all can do, and I really strongly support all of what you do. And I hope that there are folks out there who really live into this, whether you are living afraid at your home, don't know when am I going to be deported. I can only tell you this: if you're not talking about it, if you not come out and really defend yourself, you might be the one that they're going to deport you. So join the team and let's work from there. And until we talk about it, until we do something about it, then we can really bring about the peace and stop that deportation once and for all. ทุกท่านมีបងប្អូនជាទីគោរពរាប់អាន អ្វីដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេសកូនចៅរបស់យើងមិនចាំបាច់តែយើងស្គាល់គ្នាទៅយើងអាចជួយបាននោះទេខ្ញុំមិនដែលស្គាល់ក្មួយរត់ឬក៏ឪពុកម្ដាយរបស់គេជួបគ្នាប្រហែលជាមានតែឲ្យថាស្គាល់គ្នាគឺអត់មានទេក៏ប៉ុន្តែការជួយគ្នាក្នុងភាពអាសន្នយើងត្រូវចងចាំថាបើសិនណាគេនិរទេសកូនរបស់យើងទៅប្រទេសមួយដែលគេមិនដែលមិនស្គាល់ដែលគេមិនដែលធ្លាប់ដឹងថាគេកើតនៅឯនោះដែលភាសាដែលជាការលំបាករបស់គេហើយដែលការរស់នៅជីវភាពពីមួយថ្ងៃទៅមួយថ្ងៃដែលគេធ្លាប់រស់រានជីវិតរបៀបជាជនជាតិអាកាំងតើគេមានភាពលំបាកយ៉ាងណានឹងចំណុចទី1ចំណុចទី2យើងអាចសួរខ្លួនយើងថាតើភាពលំបាករបស់យើងអាចជាឪពុកម្ដាយដែលត្រូវគេដកកូនរបស់យើងនិរទេសរបស់យើងកូនរបស់យើងហ្នឹងទៅឆ្ងាយពីយើងថាតើពុកម៉ែមីងបងប្អូនមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងម៉េចនេះគឺជាកត្តាមួយដែលយើងគួរគិតនិងគួរបារម្ភហើយគួរតែរួបរวมគ្នាដើម្បីជួយធ្វើមកឲ្យមានការកាត់បន្ថយនៅក្នុងការធ្វើនិរទេសកូនចៅរបស់យើងទៅថ្ងៃមុខអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមវិលត្រឡប់ដើម្បីមកសួរនៅសំណួរជាមួយនឹងឪពុករបស់រដ្ឋហើយនឹងម្ដាយរបស់គាត់ឥឡូវហ្នឹងបើសិនណាយើងមានលទ្ធភាពនឹងអាចធ្វើបានទៅដល់កម្រិតមួយថានឹងយកក្មួយរត់មកផ្ទះវិញហ្នឹងតើលោកពូមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងណាដែរ
បើកាលណានៅខាងរដ្ឋាភិបាលអាចដកកូនខ្ញុំមកនៅជួបជុំគ្រួសាររបស់ខ្ញុំហើយបងរបស់គេប្អូនរបស់គេហើយនឹងកូនគេហើយនឹងចៅគេហ្នឹងគឺខ្ញុំនឹងសប្បាយចិត្តណាស់សប្បាយចិត្តមែនតើ
ហើយចេះអ្នកមីងវិញអ្នកមីងមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងម៉េចដែរបើសិនណាបើយើងអ្នកក្មួយហ្នឹងខិតខំប្រឹងប្រែងអស់ពីសមត្ថភាពនឹងធ្វើយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីនឹងទប់ស្កាត់មិនឲ្យរដ្ឋាភិបាលបញ្ជូននិរទេសកូនរបស់អ្នកមីងទៅកម្ពុជាវិញតើអ្នកមីងមានអារម្មណ៍យ៉ាងម៉េចដែរ
ខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណច្រើនណាស់បើថាកូនខ្ញុំបានលះលែងបងប្អូនក្មួយបានជួយខ្ញុំនឹងសប្បាយចិត្តណាស់សប្បាយចិត្តដល់ដូចជាខ្ញុំបានកើតថ្មីសប្បាយចិត្តមែនទេ
To the three of you as an organizer of the anti-deportation what will it mean to Rod to come home if any one of you would like to share the feeling
Yeah, for me, it's personal because, as we've mentioned, this violence is systemic, and it means meeting one of my brothers that I didn't know I had, and he's excited to come here and teach the youth a better path for the future. And so for me, it would mean working with him and meeting him, and doing this work together to stop deportations of our people.
All right.
I'd also like to add that he deserves a second chance. Rod has served his time. He's been in many programs to rehabilitate, and he's been waiting for his chance to come back to the community and share his story and tell others about how you can avoid this and how you can better your life, and that second chances exist. And I'll pass it on to Silver.
Sure.
So yeah, for us and for Rod, I think it's what I told Rod when I talked to him on the phone is that like I think we need you more than you need us, right? Like Long Beach and our community needs to see that we can win, that we can win our freedoms and bring our folks together, and that it's essential that we do that, right? That we work hard and build our community power and have the love that we have because our community is so loving and powerful. And for Rod, I want him to know that there's a lot of love that we have from him and that he has so much wisdom and experience to share with us just from going through his personal transformation. patient and putting in the work to really be reunited with his family and his children, particularly.
You know, I strongly believe in this country. I think this country has given all of us the opportunity to grow, whether it's business, whether it's going to school and get higher education, and all of that. And I also know that this country is a country of forgiveness. Yes, indeed, everybody made a mistake. I made plenty of mistakes in my life. So I honestly believe that Rod deserves the opportunity as well. The forgiveness that we can look upon the government to really think about what you are about to do, and that is to deport somebody that cleaning up themselves. And this is something that I personally have an issue with. It's not just Rod's case. There are other deportees case that I looked into it, and it just does not make any sense at all. So I do agree with our fellow young brother and sister, and that is to allow the people to have a second chance in life. Now, when we come back, we are going to talk about what can you do to help bring Rod home. So please don't go anywhere. We're going to come back in 2 minutes. Thank you. ជំរាបសួរពុកម៉ែមេមីងបងប្អូនជាទីគោរពរាប់អានខ្ញុំសូមស្វាគមន៍ពុកម៉ែមេមីងបងប្អូននឹងការវិលត្រឡប់មកផ្សាយជាថ្មីនៅក្នុងការធ្វើបទសម្ភាសន៍ជាមួយនឹងអ្នកតំណាងក្រុមការងាររបស់អ្នកក្រុមអង្គការប្រឆាំងនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេសក៏ដូចជាឪពុកនិងម្ដាយរបស់ក្មួយរដ្ឋផ្ទាល់តែម្ដងដូច្នេះដើម្បីនឹងបន្តនៅការធ្វើបទសម្ភាសន៍ខ្ញុំក៏សូមនិយាយជាភាសាអង់គ្លេសវិញម្ដងមុនយើងដែលបានមកទល់នឹងក្នុងគណៈនេះដែរយើងក៏បានរៀបរាប់អស់ហើយអំពីអ្វីដែលបានកើតមានឡើងក៏ប៉ុន្តែយើងពុំទាន់នៅឡើយបានជម្រាបជូនពុកម៉ែមេមីបងប្អូនថាតើអ្វីទៅដែលពុកម៉ែមេមីបងប្អូនអាចជួយបានអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំក៏សូមបង្វែរអារម្មណ៍លោកលោកស្រីទៅតាមរយៈអ្នករៀបចំនៅក្នុងអង្គការការប្រឆាំងនឹងការធ្វើនិរទេសfolks, so far we have explained you everything, how we come about to really bring everybody in front of the cameras today. Really is about to save Rod to bring him back home. But saving Rod doesn't mean that we're going to stop there. Saving Rod perhaps is the window of opportunity for our community to save other people who are perhaps in the ICE detention, and some of which live in fears in the community. And this is something that it is important that we need to be really need to come together. So here we come to the last part. The last part, you probably going to wonder, well, I want to help, right? How am I going to help? So this is a good opportunity that you, the audience, can really do to help bring Rod home. So I'm going to ask, how can our audience help to bring him home? Savli, you have any idea?
Yes, so we have a petition that is out there for Rod, so you can please sign and share that petition. You can find it at bit.ly/ReleaseRot. And we even also have a social media toolkit, which is bit.ly/rot-social-media, which you'll find some of his photos, some Instagram, Facebook posts, and also some tweets you can share to raise awareness so we can release Rod.
I'd also like to add that you can also talk to your local legislators to push and urge for the release of Rod and to help our community.
And lastly, you can stay connected with us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
So I heard pretty much everything from anywhere to go on a website, fill out the forms, and talk to the legislator, and among other things. But what about the petition drive? Where we are today, and how many more signatures do we need, or don't we need anything at all thus far?
So the petition is at 4,400. Our goal is to get 5,000.
Okay.
We're really trying to push and show that the community is here for Rod, and we want him, and we're welcoming him back into the community. So we're trying to release him from ICE detention so he can then fight his case from the outside. Because when you're on the outside, you're more likely to have more time to advocate, and they're least likely to want to deport you quicker. It's once you're in detention, they're more likely to deport you, but once Rod is on the outside, he'll have his ability to fight his case and push for a pardon where he's no longer deportable. And that's also something we'll be pushing soon once Rod is on the outside. And again, there's a lot of different, resources that you can also help advocate for. There's the Long Beach Justice Fund. We have some friends at Long Beach Immigrants' Rights Coalition that is pushing for the city to allocate more deportation defense monies. So people like Rod and and other folks from Long Beach who can't afford lawyers, they can get one. So we're doing that. You can look at their linktree/LBRC562 to check that out more. There's plenty of ways to get involved, but we really do want folks to help us push and raise more awareness at Rod. And also, we're gonna lean in on y'all to help us raise money for his bond, because we'll also have to do that. So we're prepared to apply for grants, whatever we need to, but we also want community support there.
So let's look at that. When you're talking about raise fund. How are we going to go about to raise fund? What kind of funds are we looking at? And the petition is already there. You only need about 600 plus, right? But it's always good to have more than 5,000. I'm pretty sure you can have more than 5,000 after this. But how are our folks who are at home, particularly the elder, where they go to sign that petition? And if they would like to sign it, where should they go? And where should they go to, or any site, or or you have any easy access where they can donate it for you to support the release of Rod? You want to share with us, Benny?
So, like I mentioned before, we have a Venmo account. It's run by us as well.
Okay.
It's called Epi Hood Scholar. It's spelled EPIHOODSCHOLAR. And that money goes directly towards the bonds and the deportees and the families of the deportees and anything that helps us help with our program.
Okay. All right. So I'm pretty sure that at the end you're probably going to provide KV with all of that information so that we can put it on your screen. បាទពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនជាទីគោរពរាប់អានយើងបានដឹងហើយឮហើយនៅអ្វីដែលយើងអាចជួយបានឥឡូវក្មួយបានបញ្យល់បានបញ្យល់ទៅដល់យើងទាំងអស់គ្នាឲ្យបានដឹងហើយថានៅលំនាំនឹងរបៀបដែលយើងអាចជួយពួកគេបានបាទចំណុចសំខាន់ទី1គឺយើងអាចធ្វើម៉េចជួយសញ្ញេនៅលើញត្តិដែលតម្រូវឲ្យយើងត្រូវការគឺចំនួន 5,000 បាទហត្ថលេខាចំនួន 5,000 ហត្ថលេខាហ្នឹងរហូតមកទល់នឹងពេលនេះគឺយើងបានដឹងហើយយើងបានទទួល 4,600 សន្លឹកមិនចឹងណាអញ្ចឹងយើងត្រូវការតែបន្តិចបន្តួចក៏ប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំសូមផ្ដាំផ្ញើផងដែរថាបើសិនណាយើងអាចមានឱកាសនឹងសញ្ញេនៅលើញត្តិនោះបានលើសពី 5,000 ទៅលើផ្នែករដ្ឋាភិបាលនេះប្រកាសជាបានយល់ថាខ្មែរមិននៅស្ងៀមទេខ្មែរគឺមានការរួបរួមគ្នាដើម្បីធ្វើយ៉ាងណាទប់ស្កាត់នៅការនិរទេសរបស់ក្មួយរដ្ឋចំណុចសំខាន់ទី2ពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនមានបំណងចង់ផ្ដល់ចូលជាវិភាគទានពីព្រោះធម្មតាទេដោយក្មួយបានជម្រាបអញ្ចឹងពេលណាយើងពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងអ្វីដែលហៅថាຂណាតដែលក្មួយរដ្ឋកំពុងតែពាក់ព័ន្ធនេះដាច់ខាតត្រូវការប្រាក់ដើម្បីនឹងយកទៅជួលមេធាវីឬក៏អ្នកដែលគេផ្ដល់ច្បាប់ឲ្យយើង យ៉ាងណាមិញក្មួយមានសេចក្តីសង្ឃឹមថាពុកម៉ែមានបងប្អូនហើយនឹងបងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នាដែលកំពុងតែទស្សនាតាមដាននៅតាមរយៈកញ្ចក់ខ្មែរ TV ហ្នឹងមានមេត្តាធម៌ដើម្បីដូចថាចូលរួមជាវិភាគទានតិចក្តីច្រើនក្តីបាទដូច្នេះខ្ញុំក៏សូមបង្វែរអារម្មណ៍ទៅឪពុករបស់គាត់ដើម្បីឲ្យគាត់នឹងមានពាក្យពេចន៍អីខ្លះដើម្បីនឹងជម្រាបជូនទៅដល់ពុកម៉ែមានបងប្អូននៅក្នុងនេះដែរលោកពូខ្ញុំចង់ជម្រាបសួរលោកពូថាឥឡូវនេះដល់យើងវគ្គទីបញ្ចប់របស់យើងហើយបើសិនណាលោកពូមានពាក្យពេចន៍ផ្ដាំផ្ញើទៅដល់ពុកម៉ែមានបងប្អូនឬក៏មិត្តភ័ក្តិអ្នកជិតខាងរបស់លោកពូតើលោកពូចង់និយាយអំពីអីដែរបាទសូមជឿ
បាទសូមជម្រាបទៅបងប្អូនជួនរំជាតិយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាឲ្យជួយមេត្តាសញ្ញេឲ្យកូនខ្ញុំឈ្មោះរតនឹងដើម្បី control ដើម្បី support ឲ្យកូនខ្ញុំនឹងដើម្បីឲ្យបានចេញពីខាងក្រសួងអន្តរប្រវេសន៍មកនៅជួបជុំក្រុមគ្រួសារក៏សូមបងប្អូនមេត្តាជួយសញ្ញេឲ្យកូនខ្ញុំផងហើយណាមួយទៀតខាងអារណវិភាគទានហើយដែលក្មួយកំពុងតែមានចិត្តរួបរวมគ្នាហ្នឹងក៏ជួយមេត្តាអ្នកបន្តិចពីផងដើម្បីជួយឲ្យទៅសម្រាប់ជួនមេធាវីដោយលោកបានបញ្ជាក់អំបានមិនអញ្ចឹងណាឥឡូវកំពុងតែក្មួយទាំងអស់គ្នានេះទាំងពី3នាក់4នាក់ហ្នឹងគេកំពុងតែជួយជ្រោមជ្រែងឲ្យបងប្អូននឹងជួយសញ្ញេផងហើយណាមួយទៀតជួយអរិនធ្វើវិភាគទានផងក៏សូមបងប្អូនយើងបើបានដឹងបើបានឮបើបានឃើញហើយក៏សូមមេត្តាជួយខ្ញុំផងគ្រប់គ្រួសារកូនខ្ញុំនេះផងបាទសូមអរគុណបាទ
ចំពោះអ្នកមីងខ្ញុំចង់ឲ្យអ្នកមីងនិយាយភាសាខ្មែរខ្លះទៅក៏ភាសាលាវនឹងខ្លះទៅបើអ្នកមីងមានលទ្ធភាពចំពោះអ្នកមីងវិញថាតើដើម្បីឲ្យបងប្អូនដែលគាត់កំពុងតែទស្សនានឹងនៅតាមលំនៅឋាននឹងដែលគាត់មានចិត្តចង់ជួយហើយគាត់ចង់ដឹងចង់ឮនឹងតើអ្នកមីងមានពាក្យពេចន៍អីចុងក្រោយសម្រាប់ជូនផ្ញើជូនទៅដល់ពួកគាត់
សូមអរគុណឪពុកម្ដាយបងប្អូនមីងមាទាំងអស់គ្រប់គ្នាសូមអរគុណចង់ឲ្យជួយសញ្ញេឈ្មោះទៅធានាកូនខ្ញុំនេះគេត្រូវការ7នាក់ឥឡូវនេះបាន4ជាងហើយជួយមេត្តាខ្ញុំផងបើថាបាន5គឺនឹងឲ្យកូនខ្ញុំបានចេញមកនៅជាមួយឪពុកម្ដាយអរគុណបងប្អូនទាំងអស់ទាំងពីជួយទាំងពីដើមមកក៏ដោយបានសញ្ញេឈ្មោះនេះអរគុណច្រើនណាស់បើខ្ញុំបានកូនខ្ញុំមកនៅជាមួយខ្ញុំនេះប្រហែលដុតខ្ញុំបានកើតថ្មីហើយបានរស់កើតថ្មីតាំងពីខ្លួនខ្ញុំទៅពីខ្លួនកូនខ្ញុំអរគុណក្នុងថ្ងៃខ្ញុំមានតែស្រោបទឹកភ្នែកនឹងកូនទៅសពថ្ងៃនេះអរគុណច្រើន
Thank you. Sadly, do you have any last word for the other cases that you want to share about?
Yeah. So, again, I shared earlier that we are also doing Right to Reunite campaigns, and that's particularly folks that have been deported, and we want to fight for their ability to come back to the U.S. and also or even move back, right? Because some of them, their families are only in the U.S., and we want to give them that ability to come back. And I'll have Darian and Vandalin actually talk a little bit more about those two cases. I'm going to have Darian talk about Sobil.
So I'll talk about Sobil Tui. He's better known as KK, and he was deported for purse snatching in 2002.
Wow.
He served a 2-year sentence, and he was sent back to Cambodia 2 years right after. He hasn't been able to see his family since then, but he's been able to start his own family back home in Cambodia. So he found solace through taking care of the youth there, and he's even adopted his own son there. And through his teachings, he's spreading hip hop and breakdancing as a way for the children there to cope with their poverty and to help raise them. So these decades-old convictions are affecting him to this day, and he deserves the right to re-enter this country, visit his real family at home. Well, they're his real family over there too, but his blood family. Yes.
Ivani, yeah.
Bong Visna Sani, or China, also came here as a refugee, and her family similarly endured systemic challenges here. Bong China was arrested for a minor drug offense when she was 19, and she took a plea deal not knowing that it would lead to her deportation. So we're seeing that a lot of these cases, it's unconstitutional to deport them. Bong China has been struggling to find a job in Cambodia. She's been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and it's impossible for her family and husband to pay for the bills. And so we firmly stand with Bong China and with KK, and we're fighting for them to come home.
Any last word for the, every time we come on set, you know that a set like this is not being cheap if you have to pay for it. And we're kind enough to really know our very good friends, and that is Mr. Tony Lai.
Thank you.
At the Khmer TV, and also our young brother KV, really put an effort for us to come on set here today. Any last word for them?
Yeah, we just want to say thank you to Bong Tony Lai and KV for allowing us the opportunity to have this discussion and to promote the efforts that we're doing around anti-deportation work, because we really are trying to raise awareness, and we appreciate this platform. We also appreciate you too, Bu Child, for allowing us to be here, and also creating the platform for the parents to be here too. So this wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for you, Bu Charles, if it wasn't for Tony Lai, if it wasn't for KV, for being extremely supportive and helping us uplift these stories in our fight against deportations of Cambodian people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. ពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនជាទីគោរពរាប់អានយើងបានឈានមកដល់វគ្គទីបញ្ចប់របស់យើងហើយជាចុងក្រោយយើងខ្ញុំបាទតាំងនាមសកម្មជនមួយរូបនៅក្នុងសហគមន៍មិនមានពាក្យពេចន៍អ្វីក្រៅតែអំពីការទទូចអង្វរទៅដល់ពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនធ្វើយ៉ាងណាជួយដោះស្រាយដើម្បីទប់ស្កាត់នៅការនិរទេសរបស់កូនចៅរបស់យើងអ្វីក្បត់តែគេមិនមែនជាកូនចៅរបស់ខ្ញុំមែនទេក៏ប៉ុន្តែយើងមានសាច់ឈាមដូចគ្នាយើងមានពណ៌សម្បល់ដូចគ្នាយើងអាចរួបរวมគ្នាដើម្បីទប់ស្កាត់នៅកូនចៅរបស់យើងច្រើនទៀតដើម្បីកុំឲ្យរដ្ឋាភិបាលសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកបច្ចុប្បន្ននឹងបញ្ជូនឬក៏ធ្វើការនិរទេសរបស់ពួកគេទៅកម្ពុជាវិញសេចក្តីសង្ឃឹមនៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះគឺគ្មានអ្វីក្រៅតែពីជំរាបជូនទៅដល់ពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនមេត្តាជួយធ្វើយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីចុះហត្ថលេខានៅលើញត្តិដើម្បីជួយធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េចឲ្យយើងបានគម្រប់ចំនួន 5,000 សន្លឹកបាទ 5,000 សន្លឹក 5,000 សន្លឹកនោះសោតក៏មិនមែនថាកិច្ចការនេះនឹងចប់ទេគ្រាន់តែអាចមានលទ្ធភាពធ្វើយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីទទួលយកបាទក្មួយរដ្ឋចេញពីមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលជនអន្តោប្រវេសន៍គេហៅថាគុកអន្តោប្រវេសន៍ហ្នឹងគេថាយកក្មួយរដ្ឋចេញមកដើម្បីឲ្យគេបានមានកិច្ចការខ្លះៗដែលត្រូវពាក់ព័ន្ធនឹងត្រូវផ្លូវច្បាប់ដើម្បីទៅរកមេធាវីឬក៏រកអ្នកដែលគេហៅថាការផ្ដោអវ៉ាតឲ្យនឹងដើម្បីថាតើត្រូវធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េចអីយ៉ាងម៉េចដូច្នេះវគ្គទី2គឺជាវគ្គចាំបាច់ដែលត្រូវការពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនដាច់ខាតដែលជួយជំនួយជាថវិកាបាទជាថវិកាជាការពិតប្រកាសក្នុងពេលបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះពិបាករកក៏ប៉ុន្តែបើសិនណាយើងមានដៃដួងល្អអាចជួយបន្តិចបន្តួចសម្រួលសម្រាយទៅដល់ការជួយទៅដល់ក្មួយរដ្ឋនេះជាកត្តាមួយឲ្យឃើញថាខ្មែរស្រឡាញ់ខ្មែរនេះជាបញ្ហាខ្មែរចេះរួបរวมខ្មែរដើម្បីនឹងជាអវសានក៏សូមឆ្លៀតឱកាសនេះផងដែរដើម្បីនឹងជម្រាបជូនហើយក៏ដូចជាការប្រសិទ្ធពរជ័យសិរីមង្គលវិបុលសុខចូលមានដល់ពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនគ្រប់គ្នាជារៀងនិរន្តរ៍ហើយក៏សូមប្រសិទ្ធពរជូនទៅដល់ពុកម៉ែមីមីបងប្អូនឲ្យជួបតែនឹងពុទ្ធពរ4ប្រការអាយុវណ្ណៈសុខៈពលៈកុំបីឃ្លៀងឃ្លាតឡើយបាទសូមអរគុណសូមជម្រាបលាសូមអរគុណបាទ